Okay, today we're talking about State of Decay, a Doctor Who retro review after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and State of Decay is a vampire story. It was written some time ago by Terrence Dicks, so it is not without the humor, and it's also blessedly without a lot of the tech speak that became kind of the hallmark of the John Nathan Turner years. When he became showrunner, there was much more tech and much less humor, so we're kind of happy that this script came up. They were running a little short and needed something. I like, once again, they made use of locations in the woods that add a reality to the planets that they've gone to. The indoor sets are believable enough. They are an ancient throne room, an ancient spaceship abandoned, and a cave where there is some old technology. The technology does look old, not only because it was old at the time that it was made, but also that it's sold very well as being kind of dusty and disused and rusted in places. So it's believable as an ancient throne room, an ancient spaceship, and the disused tech in the Rebel Cave. It's believable enough anyway. The acting is, I would say, stage-bound somewhat, but the actors delightfully chew the scenery. It's the medieval setting. It seems appropriate anyway. It's kind of Shakespearean in its presentation. The corridors of the castle/ship have ramps, I noticed early on, the early adventures, so we know that K9 will eventually save the day because he has to have ramps to get everywhere that he goes. The horror elements are there and reasonably well presented, especially considering that this is kind of a program that is still aimed at a young audience at the time that this was produced. And while also there was a limitation of funding in order to produce these shows, there was still a certain amount of blood, bodies of previous teenage victims. Has a disturbing element to it, shall we say. Now, the story is about an Earth ship that was lost in exospace, or what they call e-space, saved in a manner of speaking by a vampire who turns out to be one of the many arch-enemies of the Doctor, or of the Time Lords anyway. The Great One drives the story. There's much less filler material in this than we've seen in the previous three adventures under John Nathan Turner, where they almost ran the last 5 minutes of the show during the recaps. And this time it could be as little as a single line in episodes 2, 3, and 4, just to get them started. Here's where we left off. Here we go. And so it moves along very well. Still, the vampire rulers are a little downplayed. You don't really see them as vampires. They almost have to be explained. In fact, they are explained by the Doctor that they are not descendants of the original crew of the ship, but they're rather the very people and have been made vampires, and they've been around for 1,000 years. And then they service the Great One in order to keep them immortal. So that's where the townspeople give up their children, basically, to be sacrificed to this big bad. Now, when they finally show the big bad, I'm kind of disappointed in this because you can tell that it's a scale model, and it comes up through the ground as a big hand. And, okay, more laughable than threatening, really. If they had just, in my opinion, if they had just shown the reactions of the people seeing it rather than showing it, it probably would have been more effective. But that's something in Doctor Who, for the most part, they never really worried about. Also, you can almost see the strings holding the paper bats. They use some stock footage elsewhere to show the bats going across the sky, and then up close, it's just paper bats being strung by strings, and the actor reacts to it, and they have, of course, the punctured wounds makeup. We see the use of Adric by now. Now, he's sewed away on the TARDIS, and so at first they didn't know that he was even with them. But he is the one who gets captured and has to be saved. And Since Romana is a Time Lord as well, they might have to make it harder to capture her, so it gives Adric something to do here. However, she and the Doctor do get jailed for a short period of time. They manage to get out, and Romana goes to rescue Adric, and the Doctor goes for K9, basically. Once again, the Doctor wins the day more by outsmarting his enemies than by any kind of force, although he does lead the rebels in a revolt on the castle spaceship. And there's some interplay in the meantime between Romana and Adric, where Romana tries to save Adric and gets caught, and he says, not a very good rescue, is it? And then on the other hand, when Adric tries to then save Romana, she gives him basically the same line. We do find in this episode that Adric has an ability to block telepathy. This is interesting. He also, of course, has scientific and technical knowledge that'll be useful in future stories. So Adric has had a chance to have, away from his home planet, a way of being useful to the story. So that's the second of 3 stories that are set in E-Space. I'd like to know what you think about it. Please put your comments below. And as always, please make your like and subscription as well below. Thank you very much for doing that. And we appreciate your support of the channel. We have retro reviews of Doctor Who and Star Trek, the original series. And we're going to resume new reviews of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which will be premiering later this month. So until our next video, don't go far.